Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
Bam! Friday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. And basically, just a couple guys hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL every week. Tonight's episode 37. Basically, we are going to do our normal Name That Stadium, talk about some of the news from this past week. And then for the bulk of the show, we're going to talk specifically about what's been going on in free agency this past week. And then we'll close things off with our question of the week. So with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
So far, so good, man. We got a little bit of a late start tonight, but hey, we do this thing when it works for us. So we're just gonna go with the flow and make it work, man.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry about that. Work's been a bitch this week.
No, hey, it happens, man. I mean, I'm surprised we've been able to keep it as steady as we have this whole time, to be honest. So, all right, let's jump in and do Name That Stadium. And so, this is a part of the show where you can see James is out there traveling the country. Every week, he puts a new stadium in his background, and basically, we're asking our viewers just take a shot at naming that stadium if you think you know where he's at. And if you're the first person to get the answer right, we'll give you a special shout out in next week's show. And so, James, where were you at last week, man?
Is that Mile High? What's it? Empower Field now, or whatever the hell they call it now? Mile High in Denver. I basically until like the shit was really started hitting the fan with Watson, I was sure Denver was going to make a trade for Watson, and it's just now it's
He's not
unlikely.
movable now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I tell you, since we're on it, he was actually the first person on my news of the week. We'll just hit it now. Is I got a email from like Yahoo Sports or something, and there was all sorts of crazy stuff attached to this email. Like just people commenting and questions and stuff like that. I was shocked to see that people are actually speculating. It's like conspiracy theory stuff that the Texans are somehow behind this. That like they want to damage Watson's reputation since he's like threatened to hold out if they don't trade him. And I mean, I don't know. It just seems kind of like garbage to me, but it'd be pretty crazy if there was any validity to some of that. But either way, I mean, the lawsuits are mounting up. I think there's like 16 of them now, or who the heck knows.
I
And
thought it was in the 20s by now.
you know what? Maybe it is. It's changing all the time. And the bottom line is, this guy can't get traded right now. No team's going to give up anything to get a guy that might not even play. And that's the crazy part is I heard that like all those options are on the table because there's so many of them. Like it's a very real thing that he just might not play on any team this year, depending on which way this thing goes, man.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Like first of all, if the Texans are involved in it somehow, some way, like the GM and everyone there, they'll never work in the NFL again. The league will come in and fucking make them sell the franchise
Yeah.
because there's no fucking way a team can go out there and do shit like this and then and get away and the league. Oh, no problem.
Oh, no way. And, there's shady people, bad actors, however you want to call them out there. It just, yeah, like if it was to that extent, and I'm sure this is just like people speculating, but yeah, man, I mean, that'd be pretty wild because like you're in such like a prominent position. Why would you risk anything like that? I don't know. I mean, I guess people, sometimes the power goes to their head. Who knows? And maybe one day we find out. Maybe we never find out. Who knows? But um, yeah, pretty crazy. Like one of the top quarterbacks in the league, and now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, like what is going on here? So,
No,
okay,
I was
so
trying to look up see how many there are because I swear it was in the 20s. I know like Houston police said like, oh well, we haven't found any or we haven't been given any evidence of it, but
yeah, it's not a good situation. Well, here, while you're looking that up, I'll take us back to name that stadium because before we move on from there, I did want to mention We had a request come in from a guy named Joe Ball, and Joe wanted to know if we could provide some beer, food pairings at the various stadiums. James, you and I talked about it earlier in the week. Unfortunately, Joe, James isn't actually traveling to all these stadiums, at least not yet. One day we're hoping that Gridiron Grinder budget gets to that level. We can actually be traveling around checking all this stuff out. But for now, he's just literally finding a nice image and put it in the background. But I can say from my experience, which is mostly with Ford Field for the Lions, and then in recent years I've been down to First Energy where the Cleveland Browns play. The food and drink stadium wide has come a long way over the last 5 to 10 years. And I don't have like any specific pairing to go with that. But one day when our budget gets there, we will revisit this. So sorry, Joe. Wish we could give you more for tonight, but that's all we got for now.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Unfortunately, no budget.
no budget. No, we do this for free, and so please don't sue us because we have no money.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
it's still at 16. For some reason, I guess it's like 23 or something women have come forward to the lawyer that's suing, but 16 lawsuits have actually been filed.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, here, let's make it official. We're doing our recap of the past week. We've already kind of spilled it out there about Deshaun Watson. Do you have anything else on Deshaun, or are you good to move on to the next topic?
I'm good to move on to the next topic.
Okay. So I think the big thing, at least that I've seen, came out today, which is we've got some trade action. The Dolphins, I'll just start with them. They traded the number 3 pick to the 49ers, and in return, they got the number 12 pick, a third rounder in 2022, and first rounders in 2022 and 2023. The Dolphins then traded back up to the number 6 pick with the Eagles, and they got a fifth rounder on top of that. And in return, they gave the Eagles the number 12 pick, a fourth rounder, and a 2022 first rounder. Pretty exciting stuff, like this time of year. These are the fun things that you see happening. These people aggressively moving up and down the board. Of course, it like gives me bad thoughts of last year when the Lions had the number 3 pick and we couldn't fricking get anybody to make a move with us. But whatever, it is what it is. So the big thing that comes out of this is the 49ers are sitting at number 3 now. Seems pretty clear that Jimmy Garoppolo is no longer in their plans.
Well,
And then, oh, go ahead.
they come out and say that at least for this coming year, Garoppolo is their starting quarterback. So it's probably what they're going to do is they're going to draft the quarterback and then have him sit a year, a la Patrick Mahomes and like Lamar Jackson, how they sat a year behind the starter. Well, Lamar didn't sit the full year, but
Yeah.
and then groom them to be the future quarterback. But then again, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, this tells me that probably top four picks are going to be quarterback.
Yeah, it seems like it's stacking up that way. And yeah, so all right, so I guess the better way that I should have phrased it is Jimmy G is not in their long-term plans anymore. They may be using him as a bridge guy now, but yeah, I mean it you don't move up to number 3 if you're not taking a quarterback. So
Yeah.
um, and then the next one, which you know it I don't know, say what you want to say about it, but I guess Ian Rappaport had a story earlier that the Eagles had strongly considered moving up to number 3 because they've got an eye on Zach Wilson, the quarterback out of BYU, but they ultimately refrained because it was going to cost them too much in draft capital to get up there. Uh, and so instead, they've traded back and accumulated some picks. To me, this one is like, why would you even risk that story getting out there? Because now Jalen Hurts is your guy, and you just told him you weren't totally sure. You thought there was somebody better out there. And so I don't know. That to me was kind of like they messed up, in my opinion, but Hurts is going to be their guy, and they brought in Flacco now to back him up. And I don't know, maybe he flops and they go out and draft a guy next year, but man, I would have kept that thing under tight lid, man.
I don't actually, I really don't believe that story because first of all, a couple weeks ago, what's his name, Laurie came out and or it was basically reported that he told Roseman and who's the coach there now, whoever the coach
Oh,
there,
yeah, yeah,
I forget who it is. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
yeah. Here, I'll just
But had told them that they were going to give Hertz or do everything to make Hertz the guy and see what he has.
yeah, Nick
Then they gave
Sirianni.
Sirianni. That's right.
Yeah,
And then they also basically they gave Flacco like it's almost like a fully guaranteed contract with Flacco.
yeah,
So you're not going to give as a guaranteed contract to a backup quarterback unless he's going to be your backup quarterback.
yep.
So I don't really believe that they were looking to move up for Zach Wilson. Plus, anyway, Zach Wilson's going number 2, so they would have had to move. They would have had to trade with the Jets. And if you're San Francisco, you're not going to call Miami first. You're going to call the Jets first, and the Jets said no,
Hey,
obviously.
don't tell Corey Davis that, man. He's saying Sam Darnold's the guy.
Yeah, right.
That was part of their pitch to bring him in, and apparently that was attractive to him. But no, hey, I don't know. Maybe it's Ian Rappaport. Let's embellish the story a little bit and make some news kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. If I was Jalen Hurts, I'd be like, what the fuck was that about? Like what? I thought I did enough to give you guys some excitement. And here we are. We're talking quarterback. So
Yeah, that's the type of story where you think you know who's leaking all this shit, and you tell him this story, and only tell him this story, and then it gets out there, and you're like, see, we knew you were fucking leaking shit. Now get the fuck out of
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. They found the mole. Yeah. Okay, so next up here, I had just a little bit of Josh Allen talk. There have been some reports coming out of Buffalo that they're, starting to talk about extending him, and the team's made comments about wanting a deal that's basically good for both sides. Whatever the heck that means. I didn't read too much into it, but it's going to be a big money deal. Should be, a lengthy contract. I don't know. Do you think he gets something? I gotta believe he's not going to beat the Mahomes deal. That's insane. But it could be close, man. I don't know. What are you thinking? I mean, the dude freaking lit it up last year.
I don't think he's going to beat the Mahomes contract. I don't think anyone's going to beat the Mahomes contract unless it's Mahomes. Um, there's just no way. Mahomes is that guy, and
Yeah.
and Josh Allen is not on that level of Mahomes. If last year he took the Bills to the Super Bowl and won it, maybe.
Yeah, then
But
then you're talking. Yeah, I got you. So it's
so
a so how like I mean, what do you think this is? A 6-year deal? A 7-year deal? Like does he get a 10-year deal just with less money? I mean, a 10-year deal seems like it's such a rare thing, but
it's it'll probably be somewhere around a 4 to 6 year deal, probably a little bit more than what Dak got on an annual basis.
okay, okay. Man, if they only locked him down for 4 years, I'd be shocked. But you never know. I mean, it's the NFL. Crazy things happen. Okay. So next up, these things aren't really in any particular order, but I thought we'd talk about pro days for a minute. So this year, the downside of the whole COVID thing, one of the many downsides of the whole COVID thing is there's not really an official combine. And so basically school pro days and third party pro days, so to speak, basically are going to be it this year. And to me, it's tough because these workouts are designed when they're done by the schools basically to highlight the players' attributes and make them
Hmm.
look good. And I've heard that the NFL's done a lot talking to all the different schools and these third-party facilities that are hosting their own workouts and whatnot, trying to get them to do some sort of uniform testing so that they can check some of those boxes that they would have done at the combine. And I can appreciate that, but so far, my opinion is that it's a bunch of shit. All I'm seeing is oh, this guy helped us draft stock. This guy did great. That guy did great. And I'm honestly, I'm not seeing any negative news, which to me is a problem because the combine, you always hear about people rising and people falling. And that's the beauty of it is that it's not biased or they try to not make it biased. I'm sure there's always a little bit in there. But these pro days, man, it's like a totally different deal. And so, if I'm a team with a lot of picks in the draft this year, man, I'm looking at trading back and stocking up for next year just because I think it's going to be a very dicey draft, my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's how pro days are designed. Like, it doesn't matter what you do on for a pro day. It's the guy's gonna. You worry about the people that fuck up the pro days, and you don't really see that often. If you do see it, those are the people you worry about. The people that everyone else you can't. I don't see really how stock of somebody's rising because they had a good pro day. It's like it's just ridiculous.
It's mostly a designed workout, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just tough. I don't like it, but hey, thanks, COVID. Just one more kick in the sack.
Mm.
Um, all right, so the next thing I got on here is just talking about the Jags, and I guess we could cover this later on, but I just got it on here for now. So they signed quarterback C.J. Beathard this past week, and it's a 2-year deal. Pretty solid. Looks like kind of like you're talking about fair amount of like with Flacco. They got a fair amount of guaranteed money with him. And so I don't know, does that spell the end of Minshew mania in Jacksonville? I think it's widely assumed they're going to go and draft Trevor Lawrence. But is this basically their way of signaling to the league, hey, send us some offers. We're going to trade this guy because just 10 days ago they were saying they were happy with him and they weren't really looking to trade him. But now that they got a new backup quarterback, it seems like Minshew just went on the market.
Yeah, I think Minshew is always on the market, and they're just waiting for the right offer and playing coy with it and trying to make it seem like, oh well, we still want him, and so people kind of up the ante to get him. But I really don't see a big market for Minshew. Like,
No.
I think he had a couple good games, and that's it.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm a big Minshew fan, and I'd love to roll the dice on a guy like that, but it's got to be for the right price. And yeah, I think that the way that they've played it is obviously a sign that they're trying to boost up his value. And then you got to be in the right situation to take a chance on him because there's so many quarterbacks now coming out in the draft, and there was a lot of quarterback action in free agency with some of these, these trades too, right before free agency. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think his market's pretty dry, but we'll see what happens. And I think it's inevitable, really, at this point. He's going to be a backup unless something dramatic happens where he lands on a team where he's expected to be the backup, and then somebody gets hurt. I don't see anybody rolling the dice on him being a starter at this point. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the last thing I had on here for the news of the week, we like talking about the Washington football team, and I read an article just earlier today, actually, that was talking about supposedly the Washington football team name, Washington football team, has actually become pretty freaking popular, and so much so that the team is now saying that they may consider keeping it instead of rebranding. And so I don't know what the frick is going on with that, but I thought about it for a little bit and I was like, you know what? They might as well. With the way that they've kind of like botched the whole rebranding of the team as it is, just own it at this point. You're the Washington football team. And everybody will go back and look to this and it'll be like, yep, that's just how it happened. So,
What this tells me, it's not because it's so fucking popular. It's because of the fact that I told you that there's some guy that trademarked all the fucking names that it could possibly be, foreseeing, not maybe not all the names, but they settled on one that was already trademarked, and they've been trying to negotiate, and it tells me that those negotiations aren't going well. And on top of that, you saw that Snyder is now now 100% owner of the league or of the team.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot to catch that in the news. Yeah.
Yeah, he bought out all or most of the minority investors, and which is weird, but it kind of makes sense because the only reason why they changed their name is because the minority investors or started having problems with it.
Okay. Yeah. So
So he's like you. It's typical Snyder. Somebody has something bad to say about him, and that's around the organization. Just get rid of his ass.
yeah, I'm the boss. I'm the man. Forget you guys. We're
Yeah,
gonna do it my way.
exactly.
Yeah, so hey, if they stick with, I mean, I think they already said that they were going to stick with it through 2021, but we'll see, man. If this turns out to be a long-term thing, it's going to be pretty funny. All right, so that's all I had for news of the week. Was there anything else hanging out there big that you wanted to touch on before we move forward?
No, I think it was just the Snyder thing of buying out the minority investors that we hadn't touched on.
Okay. All right, so yeah, let's kick it over. Let's talk about what happened in NFL free agency this week. And for all intents and purposes, we'll just consider it week 2 of NFL free agency. And so basically, James, as I had sent you earlier, to try and just kind of keep this on track, I thought we would go off of the same list that we did last week. So we're going by division, and we'll start with the AFC teams. And we can basically just go through and talk about what are the new signings since we talked last Friday, and like what are the ones that are really standing out to us. This is obviously not going to be as big of an impact as last week. Last week, man, it was like fast and furious, just like a huge, just like flurry of signings, big signings. This week, there have been a couple big names pop out here and there, but it's been mostly this whole second tier of players. Good guys for sure, going to be contributors, but not nearly as splashy. And so, with that being the case, why don't we just kick it over? We'll talk about the Buffalo Bills, and they had a number of signings since last week. The one that caught a little bit of news was Matt Breida, the running back who was in Miami last year and San Francisco before that. He's coming over on a one-year deal, which hey, it's going to be a crowded backfield. They've already got Devin Singletary and they got Zach Moss. You add Breida to that mix now, and you got a classic, like three-headed monster in the backfield. So,
Well, Singletary and Moss haven't really been panning out for what Buffalo thought they had. Like I even a couple of years ago when Singletary came out, and I thought he's solid, and I thought he was going to be good there, and they just can't seem to make it right on at running back. I think Breida he's had some but last year it was terrible, but I mean he wasn't really used as much, but like previous to that when he was in San Francisco, he had 800, 700, 800 yards. So I mean I think it's a solid take a chance and see what you possibly have with him.
yeah, and I think, yeah, like you said, going back to the 49ers days, he was like a little bit of a boomer bust kind of guy. Like he would have these games where he just ran like with a lot of pop, and he'd make some big plays, and then he'd get hurt, and so he'd miss some games, and then as soon as he was back, boom, another pop, and then he'd get hurt again, and so. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like you said, I liked Devin Singletary 2 years ago. This past year, I don't know what happened. It's like they didn't really want to give him a commitment to being a workhorse guy, and the way that they rotated, and then on top of that, Josh Allen running the ball, it was almost just like there wasn't even enough there for any of these guys to kind of like get a full head of steam because they just were the usage was just too intermittent and sporadic in my opinion. But adding a third person to it, it's just going to make them all have to fight that much more harder because, if they don't go out and make plays, they're going to be sitting on the bench that much more. So,
Yeah, exactly.
so other than him, really the one that I wanted to point out, which we had talked a little bit about the tight end position last week and speculated that maybe Zach Ertz ends up in Buffalo. I do like that they brought in Jacob Hollister, which I think actually happened last Friday. We just missed it on our show. But I was telling you just a few weeks ago, I met one of the relatives of Jacob and Cody Hollister, the twins, and I like this signing for Buffalo. And I'll tell you what, Jacob Hollister actually played in college with Josh Allen, and he's shown in his time in Seattle that he can be a feasible receiving tight end. And so I think that's a good fit for this team. Maybe they still go out and get Ertz. I don't know, but I like that signing. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I even missed that one until you sent me the link, so I hadn't had time to look at it. But I mean, he he has potential still. I mean, he's a eh, what's that? 300-400 yards. He has a little potential. Seattle doesn't really use the tight end that often in that offense. So I mean, it could be good. I think that he's going to be more of a second second tight end. I still think that they're going to end up uh, either trading for Ertz or trying to get something in the draft for their number one tight end.
Yeah, and hey, maybe that's why the Patriots doubled down because they were basically just saying, "Forget you, Buffalo. We're not going to let you have Jonnu Smith or Hunter Henry. We're just going to take them both."
Well, I mean that's smart to prevent them from going in division. You have all that cap space. That works for me.
It'd be a Belichick-like move. Okay, so anything else sticking out here from the Buffalo perspective, as far as you can see?
Not really. It's all like
It's that second tier, man. It's
uh,
a lot of these fly under the radar at this point, but it's still worth talking about because some of them matter. And next year, some of these guys that we didn't even talk about are we're going to be like, oh, hey, man, that guy really impressed us. Okay, so next up we got the Miami Dolphins, and like when I looked at them, there really wasn't a ton that jumped out at me. I think the biggest thing is that they made the trade for Isaiah Wilson with the Titans, and uh, and then I think it was after we talked last week, or maybe it was another one of these things that was late in the week and we missed it, but they ended up releasing Isaiah Wilson. And so that was one of these ones that was like, okay, you traded, you had a need for it. The guy was a first round pick. It looked like it was going to be at least worth rolling the dice. And the dude didn't even make it this far. So it's, I don't know what happened there. I don't know what's going on with Isaiah Wilson and his future in the league now, but, something's off. That's not looking good.
yeah. So I don't know exactly what the situation was with Wilson, but they had set up some. It was Saturday or Sunday morning they released him. They had set up like some like outreach help program for him,
Oh,
and they gave him basically a zero they gave him zero tolerance, and he was late for the first appointment, and immediately after he was late they cut him.
okay. So he's definitely, kind of like what we heard from Tennessee. He's got some stuff going on. Maybe it's a mental health thing, maybe it's just off the field stuff. But either way, like high maintenance, questioning his dedication to the career and who the heck knows, but it's just not working.
Exactly, and I mean it sucks for that. Like I mean, Miami obviously thought hey, let's take a flyer on him and see if we can turn it around, but it's just he he wasn't meeting his requirements, so they just said nope, we're not going to do it.
Okay. Anything else with Miami sticking out to you?
Mm,
You're
no,
you're
not
you're
really.
reaching. You're reaching.
Yeah, I was reaching well because like at my first glance I looked at last names and I saw Butler and I was like wait and I was like oh no.
Oh no, he went to Arizona. We'll get
Yeah,
to
I
him.
know,
We
and that's
will
what I
get to him.
thought. And then I saw Butler on Miami. And I was like, oh,
Okay, so next up we got the New England Patriots, and I think the big news here was that they re-signed James White, so it's really not like super splashy. And James White, he's kind of like just a part-time role player in that backfield, but he's been very good for that team. More so when Brady was there and they could kind of run that offense, but still a big part of it. Other than him, the one that I saw was safety Jalen Mills. They signed him to a 4-year deal, $24 million contract. I think that's a good signing for these guys. And the rest of it, it's these under the radar types of things. They re-signed Lawrence Guy on the defensive line. Not like earth shattering by any means. And that's it. It was actually really a pretty quiet week for the Patriots.
Yeah, like I like them bringing James White back. I like the specificity of the contract. It's $2,462,500. Like,
Yeah.
where do you come up with that specific number? Is that what the
Yeah.
veteran minimum or something?
Yeah, it's like, hey man, come on, round me up a little bit. Just give me 2.5.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they spent all their money last week. They had to nickel and dime them.
Basically.
Okay, so next up we got the New York Jets, and so they had a few signings this week. The one that I liked, which maybe it doesn't matter, but they brought in Tevin Coleman at running back, and I know that this guy kind of fell off the map, but I go back a few years to when he was in Atlanta, and I thought he had some potential, and it just seemed like his time in San Francisco was nothing but injuries, just a bad rash of luck. And so maybe he gets healthy and this turns into a bigger deal for him. But, I'm sure he's going to have some competition at running back. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean it's nothing big deal with the Jets. I'm interested in see what they're gonna do with Darnold now that they're obviously picking Wilson at number two.
Obviously, yes. You're so confident. I like it. Well, in
Well,
here, oh yeah, yeah. Go
who
ahead, go ahead.
who else are they gonna pick if you're having San Francisco calling? No one in San Francisco wants to pick a quarterback, and you say no, we're not trading the pick. What else are they gonna pick?
Maybe they're holding out for a different trade offer. There's still time. There's still a lot of
There's
time.
there's still time, but I just don't see it happening.
I mean, if I was them, I would go for a quarterback because I just haven't seen anything in Darnold to believe he's going to get better all of a sudden. So, uh,
Yeah, it's crazy. I heard Chris Sims earlier in the week. He ranks Zach Wilson above Trevor Lawrence.
whoa,
And Chris Sims has been pretty accurate. Like he had like a couple years ago, he had Mahomes as his number one quarterback in the draft. He had like I mean he's been
bold but solid. It sounds like.
yeah
All right, well here it looks like you're looking him up here. I did want to mention the Jets signed Vinny Curry, defensive end. I think that's a good deal. That's one of these ones where he's maybe getting a little bit long in the tooth, but he's going to be a good role player for that defense and giving Robert Sala a piece there, which is nice.
yeah exactly.
Okay, so while you are doing your digging, we're going to move it over to the AFC North and we're going to look at the Baltimore Ravens. The only signing that I found for this past week was wide receiver Sammy Watkins signing a 1-year, $6 million deal, 5 million of it fully guaranteed. And this is one of these ones that it kind of I don't want to say it baffles me because I like that they signed Sammy Watkins and I think they got him at a good price. But I've already heard reports that he's going to just come in and be their wide receiver one. And I'm thinking, well, what the heck is going on with Hollywood Brown, man? Because it seems like this is what year three for him. This is going to be the year that he's the top dog there. But and then either way, Sammy Watkins has never really filled that wide receiver one role, and so I think people got to pump the brakes a little bit. And then on top of that, just kind of look at the way that that offense runs. They're not like like they're get the ball to Mark Andrews and like run the crap out of it. And I'm not sure that like there's really going to be a wide receiver one, like even if you had a solid guy. I don't know. It just, I'm not seeing it. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, the interesting thing about this, and we'll get to it a little bit later, but apparently, what I'm reading and what I'm hearing is Baltimore offered T.Y. Hilton more money than
yep.
Indy did, and he chose not to go to Baltimore, which concerns me about um, Jackson, what the rest of the wide receivers think of Jackson, because for T.Y., I mean, it might just be specific to T.Y. Hilton, but nobody really tried to go to Baltimore
Yeah.
at wide receiver. None of the big names that were out there, and then they get Sammy Watkins because I hadn't heard Sammy Watkins going anywhere,
No.
and
So what do you think? Is it Sammy Watkins and I don't know, maybe Antonio Brown next man up to head to Baltimore since he's got the connection with Hollywood Brown?
well, I had thought that there was a chance that Antonio Brown last year went to Baltimore based on the things that I had been seeing with him working out with Jackson and stuff like that. So I thought that was a possibility. I don't know. Basically, Tampa Bay is making an effort to re-sign everybody.
I noticed, man, it's crazy.
It's which is fucking nuts how they're able to do it. But so Antonio Brown might be back in Tampa Bay before he goes to Baltimore.
I think that's a good spot for him. Him and Brady clearly have some chemistry.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, the cap thing, not to go on a crazy tangent, but it is obvious to me that the cap doesn't mean shit anymore. The way that you can
Hmm.
do these voidable years, anybody can sign anybody and manipulate their cap, and it just, I don't know, dude. Maybe one day it bites you in the ass, but I, I don't like it. It's rubbing me the wrong way. But okay, next up we got the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm not like seeing anything huge from this past week. They did re-sign Samaje Perine. They brought in Quentin Spain on the offensive line. Or not brought him in, kept him, re-signed him. So they're hanging on to a couple pieces, but I don't know what's going on here, man. I would have thought that they would have been going out doing more, getting guys. I'm showing them still sitting on 24 million, and so maybe there's some moves to come, but it just seems like a slow. At least the second week is kind of slow for. I guess the first week wasn't bad. They did get some cornerback help and things like that, but I don't know. I was expecting to see more out of these guys in the second week. So
Yeah, and um I was hoping that they would do something on the offensive line, but I mean they still haven't really done shit.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, I don't even know really what's left on the offensive line. I guess Mitchell Schwartz is hanging out there. You know, you they definitely. I mean, you could. Eric Fisher, he's coming off the Achilles. Like just sign them both, man. Just sign them both. Like you need help. You need help. All right. And yeah, I don't know. I did like that they got Riley Reef, but yeah, they got to do more, man. They definitely got to be doing more.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been pounding away at the keyboard there. What are you finding, man?
Uh, Other stuff.
All right.
I'm really working on multitasking. I told you this week work's been crazy.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on then. So next up, we got the Cleveland Browns, and their one and only signing for this week that I saw. I think it's a pretty good one. Is cornerback Troy Hill, 4-year, $24 million deal. I like that. They just got John Johnson last week. They're beefing up that secondary, man, and I think it's like slow and steady, man. Cleveland, they're moving in the right direction. I like it.
Yeah, slow and steady, and I mean, I like Troy Hill signing. I think there's probably a trade for. I mean, they still haven't done anything with OBJ, which is interesting to me.
And it's been quiet, like dead freaking quiet, man.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. They signed Joe Hag on the offensive line to a 2-year deal. Other than that, their only other signing for the week was safety Miles Killebrew. This is a classic Lions thing, James. Killebrew didn't really do anything in Detroit. Now he's going to Pittsburgh. Is this where all of a sudden he has a little like mini breakout and becomes a solid starter somewhere in the league? What do you think?
I doubt it. I don't know what the fuck Pittsburgh's doing. Like, I kid you not. They need to figure shit out because there's no way that they're putting together a good team there. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, well, and hey, I tell you what, not to spill the beans, but if next week we're doing an off-season review where we're comparing all the guys that have departed versus all the guys that have been brought in, yeah, I think Pittsburgh's going to end up with a grade near the bottom of the barrel. There's just too much talent leaving and not enough coming in. And with the way all these teams do the 50 million voidable years, I don't know. It just seems like Pittsburgh could have done something to keep up there, but it is what it is. All right, next up we got the AFC South, and we'll start it off with the Houston Texans. So for the first week, they signed a whole shit ton of guys. For this last week, I only came across two signings: wide receiver Chris Conley and linebacker Jordan Jenkins. Neither of them jumping off the page. Jordan Jenkins should be a contributor on that defense. And then depending on what happens at wide receiver, basically they're throwing everything at the wall with wide receiver, and they're just going to see what sticks. And so, Conley, he's had some production in the past, but it's not a big contract, so I don't think anybody's expecting much out of him.
Yeah, I feel bad for Houston. Like, I mean, the Houston sports fans last year have gone through like a lot of shit, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. And I mean, you have the shit that's going on with Jackson and
Watson.
Watson. Yeah, sorry, I and it's just I don't know what to say about them.
Well, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Next up, we got the Indianapolis Colts. And so last week, the big news was, well, it was even before that, the Carson Wentz trade. They did like almost nothing last week. They re-signed Marlon Mack. This week, they re-signed T.Y. Hilton, as you mentioned. They signed offensive lineman Sam Tebby, and they re-signed cornerback Xavier Rhodes. Man, this is one that just to me, it's more bothersome than the Cincinnati stuff to me because Indy is on the cusp of making a Super Bowl run and they're sitting on cap space and they're not freaking spending it. What is going on here, man?
I don't know. Like, I'm surprised that they re-signed Rhodes. Like, I didn't think he did enough last year for them to bring him back. And T.Y. Hilton, like, yeah, I think the thing with T.Y. Hilton is he had some injuries last year, and maybe he can get back a little bit of what he did. But what I'm hearing on T.Y. Hilton, the one thing I'm hearing is fucking Wentz was calling him like every day, like
Okay.
where are we on the contract and how's it looking? Are you back? So I think that had a little bit of pull for him to come back and resign. And I mean, they took a flyer on him. I mean, it's $8 million up to 10 million. It's a little
Yeah.
bit of a flyer to see if he still has something, and that's a reasonable cost.
And I have no problem with that. I think it's good for them. You traded for your quarterback. You want that guy to have some wide receivers. They did draft Michael Pittman Jr. last year. He looked like he's got some serious potential. Uh, you know, Hang on to Hilton. Let's see what he can do. I wanted to see them go after one of the bigger name wideouts. They didn't do that. And then even with Xavier Rhodes, I like that they brought him back because I think he's a savvy veteran cornerback, and they need to get younger at the position. And I'm expecting them to go out and do some stuff there still. I'm just wondering what the heck they're waiting for because they're still sitting on 34 million in cap space. This is a team, like I was telling you, it would have been sweet if they landed Ndamukong Suh, who ended up going back to Tampa Bay, or if they did any number of these defensive linemen that are hanging out there this year, pairing them up with DeForest Buckner. It just, I don't know, dude. When you're so close to making that run, it just seems like this would have been the year for them to spend it and just stock up. Fill as much depth as you can because there's going to be injuries and you don't know where they're going to hit. I don't know. I don't know what they're waiting for, man.
Yeah, I don't know either. Like, I would think that they would actually try to do something, but maybe they think their teams they have what they need and they're going to address whatever the other little things they need in the draft.
It must be. They're squirreling away that money, and I don't know. Maybe some of it they roll over to next year, and that's the year. Maybe they're thinking, hey, this isn't our year. We want to give Wentz a year in here, make sure he's our guy, and then if he is, then we'll go break the bank and take it from there. Who knows? But I'd be all in for this year with how close they came last year to making a run. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Next up, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we already talked about C.J. Beathard. They signed at quarterback. They also brought in wide receiver Philip Dorsett. I like him. He's just depth at wide receiver. And those were really the only two signings I saw for this past week. So nothing big popping off the page there.
No, and another thing with Jacksonville, it's going to be a slow, methodical process for them. They're not expecting to win this year, so and you have the possibility of rollover cap, so they're probably not going to spend up to the cap this year and kind of just slowly build the team and do it the right way.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, they're definitely in a good position to slow play it. They got a new regime, more than likely a new franchise quarterback. They do have some talent on both sides of the ball. Just slowly fill it in. Do it right. Get your guys. Make sure it all sets in. And yeah, it's they could be a good story a year or two from now
Yeah, exactly. I when they moved to London.
when they move to London. Yeah, there you go. Okay, next up we got the Tennessee Titans. And the only signing I saw from this past week was wide receiver Josh Reynolds agreed to a 1 year deal. You know, nothing crazy there, but they did have Adam Humphries leave, and so I'm sure they just wanted to get another guy in at the one of those skill positions. So
Yeah, and they're not sitting that far below the cap, so I think they made their big splash. Like they got the big name players, and they have to save some room on the cap for draft picks as well.
yeah, yeah, that makes good sense. Yeah, I think they're at like 13 million in space left, so it's not a ton. They could make a little bit of moves here and there, but yeah. Okay, so next up we're going to the AFC West, and we started off with the Denver Broncos. This past week, I like their signings. They brought in cornerback Kyle Fuller, 1 year deal, and they brought in safety Kareem Jackson also on a 1 year deal. You couple that with them hanging on to Justin Simmons at safety and going out and signing Ronald Darby at cornerback. Um, Von Miller's coming back. I'm actually getting kind of excited for Denver, man. I think that their defense is going to move just one step in, further in the right direction. Their
Hmm.
offense, they got to get a quarterback, or they got to hope that Drew Lock steps up and does it. But they've got a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball too. They've got a lot of good young receivers. They got Noah Fant at tight end, and they got Melvin Gordon at running back. So, Denver's like they're kind of like a dark horse team when you look at the talent on the roster, man. They just got to put it all together on the field now.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think Denver is a quarterback away from being a possible playoff contender. Like
Yeah,
if they get like a Sam Darnold in there, or just somebody that's just slightly better uh than
Drew
Locke
Lock.
in there to carry to not really they don't really need him to carry the team. They just need him to manage that offense and not fuck up, and they could be a playoff team.
They just got to do it now. Just go get a guy. Come on. So many quarterbacks out there now. Just get one. Okay, next up we got the Kansas City Chiefs, and really the only thing I saw this past week was they re-signed wide receiver Demarcus Robinson on a one-year deal. Uh, Most of their stuff happened last week, and so nothing crazy there, but it doesn't have to be because they're freaking stacked.
Yeah, and I like them bringing back Demarcus Robinson because we talked about it in the playoffs last year when Robinson wasn't on the field. That offense was completely different for some reason.
Yep.
So I like that. I like that they brought him back and are understanding that they need that guy and they need him.
They need him. I mean,
Need him, man.
they let Sammy Watkins go, so yeah, hey, they need him. They need a
Right, but
guy.
Sammy Watkins hadn't really appeared to be that important to the team's success. Where Robinson, they were more efficient on offense with Robinson than they were without him. Sammy Watkins, they take him or leave him.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, next up we got the Las Vegas Raiders. This one, nothing splashy. They signed defensive lineman Matt Dickerson, and they re-signed cornerback Nevin Lawson. I like that they hung on to Nevin Lawson. I think he's one of those under the radar contributing guys in the secondary, but nothing big here popping off the page. Talking about the Raiders, though, I've heard that they've just been getting smoked by analysts with the trades that they've been making. And I got to be honest, man. And I told you last week that if they don't do something this year, I'm like totally off that bandwagon because looking at like the moves that they've been making, I'm just scratching my head, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, dude. They look like they are lost at sea, in my opinion.
Well, what I was gonna say was I don't know what the fuck the Raiders are doing. Like it's
Yeah.
just it seems like they're out at sea without fucking a way to navigate to land.
Yeah, it's not good, man. It's not good. And you were talking last week that maybe there's some reports of strife between Gruden and Mayock, and Gruden has final say on stuff. And this just it looks like a mess, dude. It just looks like a
Mm-hmm.
mess.
It does.
Okay, next up we got the Los Angeles Chargers. And so for this past week, the two that I saw was they signed Ode Abushi on the offensive line and linebacker Kyler Fackrell. Nothing flashy, but that's okay. It's I don't even know where do they stand with cap space because man, 29.3 million. It just seems like they could be doing more. You got the young up and coming quarterback. I don't know, man. But I don't know. I don't know what they could do. I guess I was just hoping to see something more out of these guys.
Yeah. Well, also though this week, like there's not that much out there to make. Like I mean, I guess Melvin Gordon's still out. Melvin Gordon,
Melvin
no.
Ingram, they could have
Melvin,
brought him back. Yeah.
yeah, Melvin Ingram. Even when they were on the same team, I even got him more confused.
Hey, go
Um,
go make your move for KJ Wright at linebacker. This is a team struggling at linebacker, man.
yeah, I just maybe they're trying to. I thought actually what the Floyd was going to be their big signing
Uh,
until he resigned with the Rams. Because
yeah,
with Staley who was the coordinator up at with the Rams, who's now their head coach. I thought that was going to be their big move there, but it didn't pan out.
gotcha, gotcha. All right, well, yeah, hey, it is what it is. All right, we're kicking it over to the NFC now, and we're going to start with the NFC East. We got the Dallas Cowboys here. The big thing that I saw was that they brought in safety Keanu Neal, but he's going to play linebacker, is what I'm hearing for Dallas. So. Which makes sense. They brought in Quinn to be their defensive coordinator. They got the connection. Keanu Neal played great for him, so that's solid. They also brought in safety Jaron Curse, and they brought in defensive back Demonte Kazee. Not like a ton of craziness going on here. And these are guys that they better hope Dan Quinn can come in and get that defense to work because it was a freaking train wreck last year, man.
Well, the entire team was a fucking train wreck last year, but the defense was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's a good move bringing in Keanu O'Neal. Like he's familiar with Dan Quinn's defensive system, and he can it at worst it's $5 million to have a second guy out there to tell people how to line up in the defense
Yeah.
and make sure that they're learning it. And with I think Keanu O'Neal can still play. I'm interested to see him at linebacker as opposed to
Safety.
corner safety. But I mean, that'll be interesting to see because you don't often see somebody go from safety to linebacker. Like those are
Yeah.
two differently built positions.
Yeah, yeah, and like you hear about it a little bit in college, but in the NFL, it's like no, you normally hear like cornerback to safety is like the evolution. You
Mm-hmm.
don't really hear safety to linebacker. So it's or at least not at this stage of the career. You might get it when they're younger and like maybe they come into the league and it's like, well, the guy's just a big safety and he's just not quite fast enough, so we're just going to move him to linebacker. But yeah, late stage like this, it doesn't normally happen. Okay, so next up we got the New York Giants, and their big signing of this past week was wide receiver Kenny Galladay. They signed him to a 4-year, $72 million deal. This might have been one of the biggest signings of the past week, to be honest. I think everybody was expecting Galladay would have been in that first wave of deals, that flurry, that fast and furious action. But that injury in Detroit, barely playing this past year, that slowed some things down for him. He goes to the Giants. Good for them. Hopefully, him and Danny Dimes have some chemistry. I liked Kenny Galladay. I wish we would have kept him, but Detroit, they're shedding bad contracts, and it's hard to commit to a big contract when you're in the middle of shedding all the bad old contracts. And so, I totally understand what happened, man.
Yeah, and like I like this for Galladay. I mean, I'm not surprised he wasn't in that first wave because there was a couple other bigger dominoes to fall, and wide receivers like this upcoming draft is
Stacked.
freaking stacked at wide receiver. So I'm not surprised that it took a while for him to get a deal.
But he got a sweet deal, man. I mean, this is like 18 million a year. That's a badass contract for Kenny Galladay, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so other than him, they signed cornerback Adoree Jackson. I think that's a good move for the Giants. They had a couple other signings: Zach Fulton on the offensive line, Ryan Anderson on the defensive line. That pretty much wraps it up there. Next up, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. We talked a little bit earlier. They brought in Joe Flacco to be the backup to Jalen Hurts. Aside from him, another quiet week. They had a couple moves. Hassan Ridgeway at defensive tackle, and they re-signed Andrew Adams at safety.
I, this Flacco contract fucking pisses me off.
Well, tell me
I
about
can't.
it.
It's like this whole fucking voidable years bullshit with the cap. Like why even have a fucking salary cap
Oh man,
if you can just manipulate it like this?
yeah.
Why are you gonna do just why?
You know
Why?
what, James? I didn't even see that until you said it. 4 voidable years tacked on top for cap management purposes. They didn't break the bank signing Flacco. It's a 1-year deal worth 3.5 million. Do you really need 4 voidable years? What the frick is going on, man?
Well, I think they needed the four voidable years
They have no cap
because they
space.
were
Yeah.
they had no fucking cap space. Like I don't even know how they're fitting Flacco in. I mean, they're fucking almost 8 million over the cap,
So
and
so frickin' draft a quarterback in the seventh round. And Hertz is your starter, and you got some scrub as your backup. I mean, I don't know, dude. Like this voidable year thing, it's just pissing me off, man. That's it. I'm gonna write a fucking letter to Goodell, man. I'm just gonna tell him this is garbage. Fix this shit. The CBA's broken. It needs to be fixed.
yeah. So I was looking at their contract situation, their cap situation. So they are 8 million over, and I'm trying to figure out, did they pick up the options on Malik Jackson and
Uh, I don't think so.
they're looking at it? Because if they don't pick it up, it'll be another 3 million.
Okay.
Did did you lose my audio during that?
You broke up just a little bit, but you're back.
Okay, because it was, yeah. So I was wondering about Alshon Jeffrey and Malik Jackson because I guess this year is a club option for them, but looking at the dead cap hit, they'd be even further over.
Okay.
So
Yeah, they got themselves into a little bit of a tizzy.
wouldn't
Uh,
make,
okay.
yeah,
Next up. Oh, you're getting choppy again. You there?
yeah. I'm here.
All right. So next up, we got the Washington football team. We're sticking with that name. They signed wide receiver Adam Humphries. You know, if the guy can stay healthy, I think he's a good addition to those wide receivers. You know, they brought in Curtis Samuel last week, and they got Terry McLaurin, obviously. That's a good combination of guys, but Humphries has had a problem staying on the field, so we'll see how that shakes out.
Yeah, yeah. I liked him. Like I thought he was on had a solid trajectory with his growth when he was in Tampa Bay, and then he just kept getting hurt the last couple of years and has barely started or barely played. So if he can come back, I mean, they got a couple. They got Curtis Samuel. They got McLaurin. So I mean, they're looking at a number three, number four receiver there. So I forget their tight end's name.
Oh, the Logan Thomas, the old quarterback.
No, no, they had didn't they have like a rookie tight end last year or something?
I think
That
Logan
was
Thomas was their big guy. He had a pretty good year at tight end for them, the converted quarterback. But while you're looking it up, I'll point out they had one other fairly significant signing, which was cornerback Daryl Roberts. He'll fit a role there. You know, they lost what's his name to Denver, and then they re-signed Danny Johnson. But they need help there, and they got William Jackson last week, but this one helps. It'll give them some good depth in that secondary.
yeah. I might be remembering a different. I think I'm remembering a different team.
That's okay. It's a lot of teams. It's confusing. Okay, next up we got the NFC North. That's where it always gets dicey because we know we got to talk about the Lions. But we're going to start with the Chicago Bears. And so this past week, these guys were busy, man. They actually signed a fair amount of guys this past week. The one that probably got the most attention, which I don't really know if it's warranted, but was running back Damian Williams, former Kansas City Chief. A lot of people pointed that out, which, hey, it's good. I'm just not sure what his role is going to be here. Maybe it's Tariq Cohen is not coming back the way they had hoped, and so it's going to be a 1-2 punch with Montgomery and Williams. We'll see what happens. But other than that, they re-signed Mario Edwards. I think that's a good deal for them. And I don't know. I don't know. What else did they do? They signed Desmond Trufant. I mean, he was a reject from the Lions. I'm I guess hang on. While you talk, I want to look up what he got because it doesn't show what he got on my thing.
Way too fucking much money for what he's worth. The Bears.
Well, I know that the Lions grossly overpaid him. What I'm saying is I want to see what the Bears are paying him.
Oh, sorry. So the Bears confuse me. Like they pissed everybody off this week by tweeting out a picture of fucking Andy Dalton saying QB1. Like
Yeah.
what the what the fuck is Chicago doing? Seriously. Like they these signings mean shit to me. Damian Williams, so he's going to be what, like their third running back? I mean, you got Cone, Montgomery. Montgomery's obviously the number one there. I don't know.
I can't find the contract details for Desmond Trufant, but when I do find them, James, I'm going to be pissed. I'm sure of that. So Yeah, but hey, whatever. Let's move on here. We don't want to live in the past, okay? Um, other than that, the rest of the Chicago signings, they were just like staple signings. Nothing flashy. And so that takes us to the Detroit Lions, and it was a quiet week for them. They brought in linebacker Alex Anzalone from the Saints. I think it's one of these ones. It was a cheap deal, 1 year, 1.75 million. But you know he can play, and you know he's not going to come in and be like a freaking rock solid starter for the whole year. But he's a contributor, and so I was happy with that. And then they signed Randy Bullock at kicker, which I'm still freaking baffled that Prater's gone. Like I feel like there's a little hole in my heart all of a sudden. Like what the heck happened there? But um, I don't know. Hey, Randy Bullock, he's been around a long time, so we could have done worse at kicker, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it surprised us last week when we found out that Prater wasn't under contract. So, I mean, they had to do something. They had to bring somebody in, but it doesn't
It doesn't feel right. It
it
doesn't
doesn't
feel
feel
right.
right. It doesn't get me going.
No, Prater was like our freaking hero, man. He came in, we had a mess after Hanson retired, and I forget we drafted that dude out of like Boston College or whatever, and I mean we just went through kickers, like they just all kept missing, and then it was like almost a stroke of luck where Prater got booted out of Denver for some off the field issues, and we got him in there, and he was rock solid for a while. But hey, whatever. We're moving on. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers. They re-signed tight end Mercedes Lewis. Not a bad deal. I mean, he's not their top dog, but he's a role player. And they re-signed cornerback Kevin King on a 1 year deal. I don't know, dude. All right. While we're talking about Green Bay, they've only made 3 deals so far in this offseason. And I liked that they brought back Aaron Jones. I really do. But I read an article this week about a guy speculating that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a random retire before the season starts.
Well, I doubt that. So over the weekend, it was reported that apparently Green Bay was going to trying to rework Rodgers' contract, convert part of the roster bonus to a signing bonus to give him more security for next year.
Okay.
Um, and I'm hearing that Rodgers was pissed that they said no, we're not going to rework the contract.
Oh.
Instead you're gonna have your cap hit this year, and then we're not gonna have a dead cap hit after this year.
Basically, we're keeping our options open.
Yeah, and you draft a quarterback in the first round
Last year, yeah.
by his third year, he has to be a starter. Otherwise, you failed.
Yeah, especially because it was a first round pick.
Yeah. My question is, and I want to look it up. My question on that is, are they going to be looking to trade Rodgers this year?
Ooh, man, that'd be interesting. Okay, now my mind is racing. I mean, we talked about it before the Wentz trade that if Rodgers went to Indy, I mean that would have been crazy. I just tried. I mean, here you go, Rodgers to Denver, man.
That's a possibility.
He's already familiar with the cold weather stadium.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to get him a shitload of offensive linemen because Denver's line is on the subpar side, in my opinion.
Yeah. So Aaron Rodgers this year, his cap hit is 37.2 million. His dead cap hit would be 38.3.
Well, what do you know? Denver's got 42 million in space.
Yeah, and
that's a juicy one to think about.
yeah, but after this year, so his roster bonus was 6 million. So like his roster's restructure bonus is like 8 million. So they were talking about reworking that to save money on the cap to get talent in. And then after this year, um, going into next year, his dead cap hit would be 17 million.
Okay.
That's all that would be left on the signing bonus.
Well, it's Denver or bust. I don't really see another team that could. Well, hey, all these voidable years, they could do whatever. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so moving on. Next up, we got the Minnesota Vikings, and there's nothing like super crazy going on there. They re-signed Amir Abdullah at running back. You know, hey, if the Lions would have just drafted him appropriately, he could be a good role player on our team still. But instead, we burned a second round pick on the guy who was not second round pick caliber. The Vikings also they acquired offensive lineman Mason Cole in a trade with the Cardinals. I think this was a good trade. A sixth round pick. They're bringing in a guy that he's going to give them some help on the offensive line. So good for them. Next up, we got the NFC South, and we'll start with the Atlanta Falcons. And this one, man, this one bugged me, and I'm sure it bugged you too, but I'll get your opinion here in a second, is they signed running back Mike Davis, 2-year, $5.5 million deal. I was just hoping Mike Davis was going to get a little bit more money than that, man, because he played great for Carolina last year.
Yeah, I love this signing for Atlanta. Like we've been talking all off season that they needed a running back. He played great in Carolina last
Yeah.
year. That feels about right for a running back. Like you don't want to overspend on your running backs, especially since they get you get so little value for them. Like look at Dallas and Zeke and all these other running backs that signed big contracts and they decline. Like the exception
Yeah.
is Henry. So
Well,
it's
and I wasn't thinking like some monster deal, but I don't know. Like in my head, I was thinking this guy would get at least 4 million a year, and so it would have been a 2-year, $8 million deal instead of 2-year, 5.5. And I
oh
just,
shit, it's a 2 year deal. I thought it was a 1 year 5.5
yeah. See,
when I was saying that.
I was hoping they'd throw the guy a bone, man. That's 2.75 a year seems low for the kind of value he could be bringing to that team.
Yeah, exactly. But I love the signing in Atlanta. It helps my fantasy team. I know one of my keepers.
Yeah,
As
yeah. No,
long as long as he's started on there, and Arthur Smith, yeah,
Arthur
Smith.
Blank.
No, no. What's the coach's name?
Oh, yeah. Holy cow! I'm already drawing a blank on. Let me
Yeah,
just look it up on who they signed. Uh,
I wanted
yeah,
to say
yeah,
Arthur.
Arthur Smith. Yeah, you had it right. Yeah, the Titans offensive
Okay,
guy. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and he knows how to use the running back position. Um, so I mean, look at what he did. Look at Tennessee with Henry.
Yep.
So I
Yeah, no,
mean,
yeah. I think it's a good fit. I do like that. Yeah.
I'm definitely interested to see how how Davis pans out there.
Okay, so next up we got the Carolina Panthers, the former home for Mike Davis. And so just kind of looking at their moves. John Miller at guard, they signed him to a 1-year deal. Defensive lineman Morgan Fox, 2-year, $8.1 million deal. And then they signed Rashawn Melvin at cornerback. None of these are jumping off the page, but I've got a feeling all these guys are going to contribute in some way. Like these aren't nobody signings. These are guys that are going to be on the field, but they're not. Well, what you got there?
Just a little of the Widow Jane 10 year, just a little bit left.
You sandbagging son of a bitch, man. Sandbagging son of a bitch. I got me some high quality H2O. Maybe I'll join you next week. Okay, so next up we got the New Orleans Saints, and the only signing that I found for this week was tight end Nick Vannett on a 3-year deal. Hey, they need another tight end because apparently they don't want to commit to Taysom Hill at tight end. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, aren't they supposed? Isn't Hill supposed to be competing for the starting job?
At quarterback, apparently, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I have it in my head that if I had Taysom Hill on my team, he would be like a tight end all the time, and then I would have him move around for trick plays, but he'd be on the field all the time, and it just seems like he's sitting on the bench a lot for how much they pay him. But that's okay.
Yeah, I
They
agree.
can they can do what they want with their money. Okay. Next up, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Uh, Listen, I was excited that they brought back Sue, but the big signing, which just came out, I don't know, today or day or however many days ago, was that they're re-signing Leonard Fournette, and he had a great run in the playoffs. And I mean, James, it's just like you said, they've like apparently just fucking re-signed everybody, and so they're running it back for another Super Bowl run for sure, man.
Yeah, the one thing I like about the Sue signing is it's a 1 year deal,
Yep.
and he plays the best on the 1 year deal, trying
Yeah.
to get that big payday. And you just keep giving him 1 year deals to keep his interest, and you'll have a solid defensive tackle. You give him a multi-year deal, a big money deal, he's gonna fucking suck for a couple years.
Miami? Is that what you're thinking of? Miami?
Oh, I was thinking. I thought I was thinking Rams, but
Yeah, well, Miami was the big one, and
yeah,
then he went over to the Rams, and yeah, but no, that's the right strategy for Sue. Just keep it short. Uh,
exactly.
okay, so I think we're winding down here. We got the NFC West next, and we're kicking it off with those guys with the Arizona Cardinals. Looking at their signings, they got a couple of linemen, Brian Winters, Max Garcia, but the signing that I know you are most excited about is cornerback Malcolm Butler, 1 year deal up to 6 million. A good signing considering that they let Patrick Peterson walk. And so they grabbed Robert Alford last week, and now they got Malcolm Butler this week. It's, you know, I mean, I think you got Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt on that defensive line. They're going to make these defensive backs look good, man, because they're going to be
Hmm.
putting pressure on quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I really like what Arizona's doing. Like they've take leaps and bounds forward defensively with their little tiny, you know, their moves. Signing Watt and signing Malcolm Butler. I mm, I'm interested to see what that offensive line makeup is for them because they needed a little bit of help, and it seems like a lot of teams with like a mobile-ish quarterback tend to neglect the offensive line a little bit too much.
Yeah, I was happy about the trade last week for Rodney Hudson. I think that
Hmm.
that's going to help them, but I do agree that this is a line that has been starved for a long time. And I think it was good they brought back Kelvin Beachum because he played admirably last year. But yeah, if I'm them, I'm probably looking in the draft to go out and get another guy and beef up that line. And yeah, like you said, teams like to just kind of discount the offensive line when they got a mobile quarterback, and I'm not a big fan of that. But we shall see. We shall see. Okay, next up we got the Los Angeles Rams, and the only signing that I found for this past week, which maybe I missed something, but it was Deshaun Jackson. He's going there on a 1 year deal, 4.5 million. I think people are they're making a bigger deal of this than they should because Deshaun Jackson has not played meaningful football in a long time. But every year he seems to make some kind of a headline. And so Is this all of a sudden going to be the year that he stays healthy and lights it up? I'm doubting it, but it'd be cool because when he is healthy and he does play, the dude's a fucking lightning bolt still. And so, it is fun to watch him play. It just he's been hurt for so long. So
Yeah. One of the things about it though is you're looking at having him what their third option, fourth option.
yeah,
They have what like Higby. They have not Higby.
at
That's
tight
not
end,
right.
yeah, they got Higby, but yeah,
Higby.
they
Yeah.
they've got Cooper Cup and they got
Yeah.
Woods. Uh,
Yeah. Bob Woods and Cooper Cup and I was thinking like when I said Higby and then I started thinking of the guy from Cincinnati.
T Higgins or
Yeah,
no?
Higgins. So
Yeah,
like when I said Higby, I momentarily confused them. That's why I was like, no, not Higby. But yeah, so I mean, he's like third, fourth option for Stafford. He can probably still get push it downfield, which is what they need. Cooper Cup isn't really Cooper Cup and Robert Woods don't really push it down the field, and Stafford
no.
can throw those balls, but more accurately than Goff. So I actually really like this signing. It's team friendly. It's not really an exorbitant amount of money, and just it's a one-off chance. See what happens.
Yeah, they just need him to stay healthy, man. And hey, he's on a championship caliber team, and so maybe that's motivation for him to actually get his shit together and stay in shape. So, you know.
Yeah,
Okay, so next up we got the San Francisco 49ers. And really, like, I mean, they re-signed K'Wan Williams at cornerback. I did like that they brought in Tavon Wilson at safety, and then they re-signed Jaquiski Tart at safety. Those were pretty much the extent of the moves. I can point out they signed Zach Kerr on defensive line, but that's like pretty much all of them, man. And it's they're keeping the talent there. They have what they need. They just got to get the quarterback thing worked out, and this team can
hmm
make a run.
as this team was composed prior to free agency, it was a quarterback away from a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. They were already
So
solid, man. Yeah,
yeah, you don't need to bring in those flashy pieces to that are really going to do something. You need to address the quarterback position, and you can win championships there.
heck yeah, and I hope they do. I want to see Shanahan get one as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next up we got the Seattle Seahawks. Next up, I think this is last but not least, and I like that they re-signed Carlos Dunlap. That was a nice deal. 2 years, 16.6 million. I think he's a good contributor for them. And then this is a guy, uh, former Lion, going back a couple years now, but they signed Kerry Hyder on the defensive line, 3 year, $16.5 million deal. I like that. Hyder was good in Detroit. I wanted us to hang on to him. It didn't really work out, but I think he'll be a good fit in Seattle. So I like what they're doing, trying to stabilize that defensive line. Hopefully, it kind of like resonates through the rest of the defense.
Yeah, and I got to look it up because didn't they cut Carlos Dunlap earlier?
Did they cut him? I know that they traded for him, and I guess I'd have to look up what happened with him. But something about what you're saying, I thought he was gone too. I thought he was going to be out somewhere else. Maybe that's just because they didn't re-sign him quick enough. I don't know.
No, because I just looked and his last contract, whatever he signed, he would have been an unrestricted free agent in 2022. So he was due. Okay, that's why because it's average salary. It's like $5 million savings between the contracts.
Okay.
It was average annual salary of the previous contract was 13.5, and this one's 8.3.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, hey, so that's all I got for that. Is there anything with any of this that you want to go through before we move on?
For some reason, I thought there was another move that we didn't go on. But I'm glancing at the site and I'm not seeing it. So
Sure. Yeah, just take a look. We got nothing but time. We ain't got nothing but time. Yeah, and I'm just skimming my list here too, just in case, because I'm sure we missed something out there. But you know, I think we did a pretty good job going through them.
oh, dude, hold on. I think I might have found it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to verify. Because I don't remember talking about Mercedes Lewis resigning in Green Bay.
Oh, we talked about it, James. We talked about
Yeah, I know. It just
it.
you see that's what happens when you're actually trying to do your real job while you're doing this because your real job doesn't respect
Don't
fucking
don't don't be
9 to 5.
don't be like letting people know that, man. You got to act like you're a true professional here, James. Totally committed to Gridiron Grinder.
Come on, nobody's watching at this point, anyways.
I mean, we got like 4 views or something. I don't know. There's a few of them hanging out there.
Yeah, but that's all I'm saying is I just for some reason I didn't remember talking about
I got you.
Green Bay.
I got you. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, hey, so that's basically week 2 of NFL free agency. You know, we hit it pretty good. The last part of the show here before we wrap it up is doing our question of the week, and I've already kind of leaked out my thoughts on this. But basically, everyone and their mom is talking about who's winning free agency and who's winning the off season. And so I thought for us, let's just flip the script and let's talk about who's losing free agency and why. And in the name that popped out the most for me, which I mentioned earlier, is Indianapolis. And it's just a lack of spending. I think that you were so close to making that run last year. You your big issue was your quarterback, and Rivers retired. You went out, you got Wentz. Okay, stack it up. You're still sitting on 30 something million. You know, like make your run now because you don't know what's going to happen next year. You know, like freaking Buckner could blow out his leg and be career ending. And then you got to totally transform your defense. Or who the heck knows? All I'm saying is you're in a position, you got the pieces, you got the money, just fill it in and see what happens. I'm not saying you got to make a bunch of big long term deals, but sprinkle it around, man. Give yourself a chance. And I think that they're doing themselves a disservice by not spending some of that money. It's basically like saying, we don't have any confidence in Wentz, so we're just going to see how this year plays out. And if he looks good, then we're going to roll that money over into next year, and that's going to be our year. I don't know, man. To me, it's like if you have a chance for this year to be your window, you take it. Just my opinion.
So I can understand not spending the money because you don't know what you're getting in Wentz. He obviously last year had issues. I agree that Indy should be doing more, and I before I answer the question, I want to double check something on that because I'm really torn because you sent me this earlier, and I'm really torn between two teams on it.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm gonna say the losers so far are the Chicago Bears.
Okay.
I was torn between Chicago and Green Bay.
It's, all right. Yeah. And tell me why. I don't want to jump in
So
before you give your
so
reasoning
with
for them.
Green Bay, the issue with Green Bay is they don't really have the cap space. They could have reworked Rodgers' deal, given him, you know, ex- reworked it a little bit to give them the flexibility to bring in some talent. But Chicago is just throwing a bunch of darts, and it's what I saw in Detroit going into last season. They know they're on their last leg, hoping that they get that one extra win to fucking save their asses and not get their ass fired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last year, they could have signed Andy Dalton. Do you know how much Andy Dalton was paid by Dallas?
Oh, it was like jack shit, man.
The total contract, including his signing bonus, was $5 million.
Yeah. I remembered it was like there was some article about quarterbacks last year that were backups, just like didn't get normal backup money. Like it was a way low market for some reason.
Yeah, and Andy Dalton, the Bears last offseason could have could have signed Andy Dalton for a lot less than what they signed him for coming to this year. Andy Dalton does I if you're going to sign Andy Dalton, you're just where he is in his career, you're just as well picking up Trubisky's option. You're just as well putting Foles out there. Instead, last year, and I know we're talking about this free agency, but hear me out. Last year, they traded a fourth round pick to pay Nick Foles $30-some million
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
when they could have signed Andy Dalton for 5, 8 million. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. They could have signed him for $10 million.
Yeah.
So they go out and they overpay for Andy Dalton. They go out and none of these moves they're making
They're
really make
desperate. Yeah, they're desperate,
really
and they don't
make
have any
sense.
space. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that's probably the only reason I didn't pick on them is just because I looked at them in Green Bay. I was actually like really like, God damn, Green Bay's doing nothing, but they didn't really have space. And I guess space is like moot when you can just add voidable years to anybody's contract. But um, I just kind of thought the same thing for them too. It was just like, well, that was my excuse for them. Okay, they don't have the cap space, so I'm not going to pick on them. But no, you're right. You should be questioning it because every team has shown this year that they're basically the cap is a myth. You can do whatever the heck you want. You just got to get creative. And yeah, they definitely should have made some bigger moves. And the fact that they have not made bigger moves, I think basically is just spelling the end for them after this year, if they even make it to the end of this year.
yeah. So it has 13 million incentives. Andy Dalton to fit Andy Dalton in. They gave him another one of my favorite fucking moves that these teams do. They gave him a 3-year contract that the last 2 years automatically voided after this year to spread the
Yeah,
cap hit up.
yeah.
So
Desperation. Desperation.
yeah, so his cap hit, like you just look at his cap hit, it's manageable. It's less than $6 million this year, but that's because it's 2.3 million. I'm sorry, that's because it's almost 5 million next year and $2.3 million the year after that.
Yeah, yeah. Even
It's
though he'll
like,
be long gone.
yeah, he'll be long gone. He's not going to do anything for the team. The Chicago Bears currently are in a worse position this far into free agency than the Detroit Lions.
Oh, man, that's interesting. Wow. Maybe we'll have to do that in one of these next weeks. We'll do a side by side, you
Yeah,
know?
they're 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 way overspending on these players. They're a year behind the Lions, so the rebuild's going to start next year for the Bears.
Yeah, that part I think that makes sense. I think that they're about to have the train wreck that like officially starts them over after this year. I think this is like their last year where they're hanging on, like maybe we can make some magic happen and not have everybody get fired, but they're already too far gone and they're gonna
Yeah.
get fired because those miracles just don't happen like that, at least not often.
Well, gee, how do you think that miracle happens? You go out and you make the deal for fucking Russell Wilson. Give Seattle what the fuck they want. You got
Uh,
Lynch. You got, not Lynch. You got what's his name? What's the GM's name up in Seattle?
oh, what the hell's his name? I'm drawing a blank, man. I've been drawing blanks all night tonight.
Schneider.
Yeah, Schneider.
You got Schneider in a fucking room. You're sitting in there. You're talking about the trade, and he says no to what what you're offering. You say, okay, what can I do to make this work?
Yeah.
What do you need to make this work? You get Russell Wilson in there. Number one, Pace and Nagy keep their jobs because that team's all of a sudden goes from a fucking 8-win team to a 10, 11-win team without any other additions.
I don't know why you're
But
fighting
no,
for them, dude. Why are you fighting for them? We want them to lose so that the Lions can be better than last place in the NFC North.
it's not that I'm fighting for them. It's it's infuriating to see incompetence on this level.
Yeah, the path was there and they just didn't go down it.
Yeah, it's like if you and I can see the path, how do these guys that are paid millions of fucking dollars not able to see the goddamn path?
Well, maybe they just played the negotiations wrong. Maybe they saw it and they couldn't execute.
Or maybe they don't know how to fucking negotiate.
Yeah,
It's like
they should have brought in John Dorsey to be their consultant to help them lock that deal up. No, I know. I'm just sprinkling it on top. All
here's
right. Well, hey, let's wrap this shit up, man. You got anything else to add on to that, or are you good?
no, I'm good.
All
I
right.
went on my little rant, so
And it felt good. I could tell. It felt good. You topped it off with the little sip of the Widow Jane. So,
yeah.
um, okay. So for anybody watching, basically that's our question of the week, which similar to Name That Stadium. If you have an opinion on who you think is losing free agency, hit us up. Let us know. Put it in the comments section on our YouTube page, and we will respond. We want to know what's going on. Otherwise, that's it for tonight, and we appreciate the support. Give us that thumbs up, and if you really liked us, hit the subscribe button. All right, James, it was fun, man. I'll catch up with you in a bit.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
All right, bye.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.